This video has terrible lighting, but honestly, I filmed my video for Friday earlier today and I was not in the mood to film at all. Like there was something so off, and I get like that some days. I feel like not everybody can be like at the top of their game 100% of the time, but I knew I had to film a second video, and so I was trying to figure out what exactly I wanted to do. I was having a hard time reading earlier and I kept messing up, and honestly, like I already edited that video, and I feel like in the moment, I think the video is always going to be a lot worse than it actually is. I was editing and I'm like, why was I so frustrated while I was filming this? I'm really hoping that I don't come off as frustrated in that video. But anyways, I've taken a break. I went and I got my nails done with my friend Judy, and I didn't feel like sitting in my kitchen. I didn't feel like sitting in my normal filming spot. I was watching a stream and I was like, you know what? I'm in my office right now if you haven't noticed, but I was like, my porgs have not been on camera in so long, other than on my streams. You still can't see his face because I never perfected that, but here he is in the flesh. I wanted to switch it up and I wanted to lay on my porg like old times, and so here we are. But this video is not me rambling. Shocker. I started thinking about it, and so I googled when Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark came out in theaters, and it already has. I had no idea that this movie was out. Or maybe I did and I just completely blanked on it. And I remember that I made a video where I read Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, but I was drunk and I was gonna go get beer and I was gonna drink in this video, but then I was like, do I want to throw up? Because I'll probably throw up. So I've decided to soberly read stories, but from books instead of from my phone. The last time I did this, so many of you told me that you read these when you were in elementary school, and I think I made a joke about buying them at the Scholastic Book Fair, and I was like, actually I don't know if you could because they're like really creepy stories, but a lot of you were like, yeah wait, I used to buy those at the book fair all the time. And so I figured we'd be nostalgic together again. I had a page marked in here and I just lost it because I closed it because I'm ugly. So honestly, I'm just gonna go through and we're gonna read a bunch of stories together in my office with my porg. And if you look up here, I have all my other porgs. I got my backpack, I got my mini porg, I got a beanie. My friend sent me a beanie. Or he didn't send it to me, but he gave it to Kayla to give to me because he got me gifts because he's really nice and I don't deserve him. And I have a little Yoshi up there, which is from the same person. I got my Harry Styles candle, I got my Buy My Socks. What is it called? What is that called? What is that thing called? This is Buy My Socks because I really want people to buy my socks. A bitch has got to make a living. Sorry, I'm in a much better mood right now if you can't tell. That's why I won't shut the fuck up. I feel like you can really tell when I'm in a bad mood versus a good mood while I'm filming because of how fast I talk and how much I talk. We're gonna get started. I'm probably just gonna read stories from each of them. I have all three. So the first story that I wanted to read is called The Babysitter. I'll show you the pictures. We'll do this like I'm your teacher or something and I'm reading you stories in class. Also, I'm about to take it seriously. Someone made a comment, they're like, it's so funny when you go from being like you to reading because it gets so dramatic and so serious. Here we go. It was 9 o'clock in the evening. Everybody was sitting on the couch in front of the TV. There were Richard, Brian, Jenny, and Doreen, the babysitter. The telephone rang. Maybe it's your mother, said Doreen. She picked up the phone. Before she could say a word, a man laughed hysterically and hung up. Who was it? Asked Richard. Some nut, said Doreen. What did I miss? At 9:30, the telephone rang again. Doreen answered it. It was the man who had called before. I'll be there soon, he said, and laughed and hung up. Who was it? The children asked. Some crazy person, she said. About 10 o'clock, the telephone rang again. Jenny got to it first. Hello, she said. It was the same man. 1 more hour, he said, and he laughed and hung up. He said, 1 more hour. What did he mean? Asked Jenny. Don't worry, said Doreen. It's somebody fooling around. I'm scared, said Jenny. About 10:30, the telephone rang once more. When Doreen picked it up, the man said, pretty soon now, and he laughed. Why are you doing this? Doreen screamed, and he hung up. Was it the guy again? Asked Brian. Yes, said Doreen. I'm going to call the operator and complain. The operator told her to call back if it happened again, and she would trace the call. At 11 o'clock, the telephone rang again. Doreen answered it. Very soon now, the man said, and he laughed and hung up. Doreen called the operator. Almost at once, she called back. The person is calling from a telephone upstairs, she said. You'd better leave. I'll get the police. Just then, a door upstairs opened. A man they had never seen before started down the stairs towards them. As they ran from the house, he was smiling in a very strange way. A few minutes later, the police found him there and arrested him. Wait, that reminds me of the Babysitter movie where she's at that house. It's like in the middle of nowhere. It's like a really fancy house. She's babysitting the 2 kids and someone keeps calling her and then they show up. There's like a pond with fish in it. On to the next one. This next one is called High Beams. Beep, beep. The girl driving the old blue sedan was a senior at the high school. She lived on a farm about 8 miles away and she used the car to drive back and forth. Now she had driven into town that night to see a basketball game. Now she was on her way home. As she pulled away from the school, she noticed a red pickup truck follow her out of the parking lot. A few minutes later, the truck was still behind her. I guess we're going in the same direction, she thought. She began to watch the truck in her mirror. When she changed her speed, the driver of the truck changed his speed. When she passed a car, so did he. Then he turned on his high beams, flooding her car with light. He left them on for almost a minute. He probably wants to pass me, she thought, but she was becoming uneasy. Usually she drove home over a back road. Not too many people went that way, but when she turned onto the road, so did the truck. I've got to get away from him, she thought, and she began to drive faster. Then he turned his high beams on again. After a minute, he turned them off. Then he turned them on again, and off again. She drove even faster, but the truck driver stayed right behind her. Then he turned his high beams on again. Once more, her car was ablaze with light. What is he doing, she wondered. What does he want? Then he turned them off again. But a minute later, he had them on again, and he left them on. At last, she pulled into her driveway, and the truck pulled right behind her. She jumped from her car and ran to her house. "Call the police," she screamed at her father. Out in the driveway, she could see the driver of the truck. He had a gun in his hand. When the police arrived, they started to arrest him, but he pointed to the girl's car. "You don't want me," he said. "You want him." Crouched behind the driver's seat, there was a man with a knife. As the driver of the truck explained it, the man slipped into the girl's car just before she left the school. He saw it happen, but there was no way he could stop it. He thought about getting the police, but he was afraid to leave her, so he followed the car. Each time the man in the back seat reached up to overpower her, the driver of the truck turned on his high beams. Then the man dropped down, afraid that someone might see him. That is fucking terrifying? Oh my god. Oh my god. Okay, wait. Okay. Hang on. Give me a second. I didn't think any of these stories were gonna actually be scary. Like, I just thought that they were like stupid fucking stories. I feel like that's like a thing that could actually happen. I'm sure that actually has happened. Bless this man's soul for following this girl. Oh my god, how sweet of him. I know this is not a real story, but oh my god, what a hero. Oh my god. I remember a really long time ago. I don't remember if it was like in a class or if we had an assembly or something, where they were talking about basically just like being safe. And someone told a story about a guy who like laid underneath a girl's car. So when she went to her driver's door and tried to get inside, he like grabbed her ankles or like cut her ankles, you know? I don't really know what the fucking point of that is, but it happened, I guess. I don't know. This shit freaks me out. How did he like slide into her car? What did he say again? He slipped into her car right before she left, so I'm assuming she like unlocked her car and then maybe he got in. I don't know. That's why you always get in your car and lock the doors right away and unlock them when you're at your door. And always look in your back seat. That's what I do. Just be paranoid as fuck. Okay, this one's called The White Satin Evening Gown. Here is the white satin evening gown. A young man invited a young woman to a formal dance, but she was very poor, and she could not afford to buy the evening gown she needed for such an occasion. "Maybe you can rent a dress," her mother said. So she went to a pawn shop not far from where she lived. There she found a white satin evening gown in her size. She looked lovely in it, and she was able to rent it for very little. When she arrived at the dance with her friend, she was so attractive. Everyone wanted to meet her. She danced again and again and was having a wonderful time. Then she began to feel dizzy and faint, and asked her friend to take her home. "I think I danced too much," she told him. When she got home, she lay down on her bed. The next morning, her mother found that her daughter had died. The doctor did not understand what had caused her death, so he had the coroner perform an autopsy. The coroner found that she had been poisoned by embalming fluid. It had stopped her blood from flowing. There were traces of fluid on her dress. He decided it entered her skin when she perspired while she was dancing. The pawnbroker said he bought the dress from an undertaker's helper. It had been used in a funeral for another young woman, and the helper had stolen it just before she was buried. Oh my god. Oh, that was the end of the story. Okay, I really was like expecting another page. Interesting. See, that one wasn't as freaky. It's like really sad. Rest in peace, but you know. Okay, this one's called The Hook. Donald and Sarah went to the movies. Then they went for a ride in Donald's car. They parked up on a hill at the edge of town. From there they could see the lights up and down the valley. Donald turned on the radio and found some music, but an announcer broke in with a news bulletin. A murderer had escaped from the state prison. He was armed with a knife and was headed south on foot. His left hand was missing. In its place, he wore a hook. "Let's roll up the windows and lock the doors," said Sarah. "That's a good idea," said Donald. "The prison isn't too far away," said Sarah. "Maybe we should go home." "But it's only 10 o'clock, said Donald. "I don't care what time it is," she said. "I want to go home." "Look, Sarah," said Donald. "He's not going to climb all the way up here. Why would he do that? Even if he did, all the doors are locked. How could he get in?" "Donald, he could take that hook and break through a window and open a door," she said. "I'm scared and I want to go home." Donald was annoyed. "Girls are always afraid of something," he said. As he started the car, Sarah thought she heard someone, or something, scratching at her door. "Did you hear that?" she asked as they roared away. "It sounded like somebody was trying to get in." "Oh, sure," said Donald. Soon they got to her house. "Would you like to come in and have some cocoa?" she asked. "No," he said. "I've got to go home." He went around to the other side of the car to let her out. Hanging on the door handle was a hook. Honestly, girls know everything, so you should probably stop arguing with us at this point. That also reminds me, there are dead-ass prisoners on the loose in Arizona right now. Oh my god. There are signs literally everywhere warning people that 2 prisoners escaped. They were last seen in some red GMC. They overpowered the security guards, or whatever the fuck they're called, when they were being transported from New York to Yuma. It's like a 6-year-old couple who are wanted for murder, and I'm like, cool, they're just like out in the open. I don't think they found him yet either. I've only read from 1 book, so we're gonna move on to the second. Okay, this section of the book is scary stories about a subway car, a shopping mall, and other dangerous places. So just being in public, that's scary. This one's called Oh Susannah. I don't really know what the picture is, I'm gonna be honest. Oh, it's like Santa Claus. Like Santa Claus but like a demon, I don't know. Susannah Claus, get it? Susannah and Jane shared a small apartment near the university where they were students. When Susannah got back from the library one night, the lights were out and Jane was asleep. Susannah undressed in the dark and quietly got into bed. She had almost fallen asleep when she heard somebody humming the tune to the song, Oh Susannah. Jane, she said, please stop humming. I want to get some sleep. Jane didn't answer, but the humming stopped, and Susannah fell asleep. She awakened early the next morning. Too early, she decided, and was trying to get back to sleep when she heard the humming again. Please go back to sleep, she told Jane. It's too early to get up. Jane didn't answer, but the humming continued. Susannah became angry. Cut it out, she said. It's not funny. When the humming still did not stop, she lost her temper. She jumped out of bed, pulled the covers off Jane, and screamed. Jane's head was gone. Somebody had cut her head off. I'm having a nightmare, Susannah told herself. When I wake up, everything will be all right. Oh, that was it? That was it? Oh my god, I thought, okay. Some of these stories really get me because I think there's going to be more to it. And there's not. This one is called The Man in the Middle. It was almost midnight. Sally Truitt had just gotten off the subway train at 15th Street after visiting her mother. Don't worry, Sally had told her. The subway is safe. There's always a policeman on duty. But that night she didn't see one. Except for her, the subway car was empty. At 42nd Street, 3 tough-looking men got on. 2 of them were holding up the third, who looked drunk. His head rolled from side to side, and his legs refused to work. When they got him seated between them, his head came to rest on one of his shoulders. Sally thought he was staring at her. She buried her head in a book and tried not to notice. At 28th Street, one of the men stood up. Take it easy, Jim, he said to the man in the middle, and he got off. At 23rd Street, Jim's other friend stood up. You'll be fine, he said, and he got off. Now the only ones left in the car were Jim and Sally. Just then, the train went around a sharp curve, and Jim pitched onto the floor at Sally's feet. When she looked down at him, she saw a trickle of blood on the side of his head, and just above it, a bullet hole. What? The actual what? Oh my god, wait, was he dead the whole... Was he dead the whole time? I understand. Okay, let's read A Cat in a Shopping Bag. What could possibly go wrong? Mrs. Briggs was driving to the shopping mall to do some last-minute Christmas shopping when she accidentally ran over a cat. I know I haven't stopped in any of these, but like, it's already wrong. It's already bad. She could not bear to leave the corpse on the road for other cars to hit and squash, so she stopped, wrapped the cat in some tissue paper she had with her, and put it in an old shopping bag in the back seat. She would bury it in the backyard when she got home. At the mall, she parked her car and began walking to one of the stores. She had only taken a few steps when out of the corner of her eye, she saw a woman reach into the open window of her car and take the shopping bag with the dead cat. Then the woman quickly got into a car nearby and drove away. Mrs. Briggs ran back to her car and followed the woman. She caught up with her at a diner down the road. She followed her inside and watched the woman slide into a booth and give the waitress her order. As the woman sat, sipping her soda, she reached into Mrs. Briggs' shopping bag. Then she bent down and looked inside. A look of horror crossed her face. She screamed and fainted. The waitress called an ambulance. 2 attendants carried the woman away on a stretcher, but they left the shopping bag behind. Mrs. Briggs picked up the bag and ran after them. This is her, she called. It's her Christmas present. She wouldn't want to lose it. Damn, Miss Briggs really did that. Oh my god, this bitch is a savage. Okay, sorry. I'm sorry that I am the way that I am. Shit happens. Okay, let's do one more from this book, and then we move on to the last one, and then I stop because I've read a lot, I feel like. This one is called A Bed by the Window, or sorry, The Bed by the Window. Can't fuck that up. The 3 old men shared a room at the nursing home. The room only had one window, but for them, it was the only link to the real world. Ted Conklin, who had been there the longest, had the bed next to the window. When Ted died, the man in the next bed, George Best, took his place, and the 3rd man, Richard Green, took George's bed. Despite his illness, George was a cheerful man who spent his days describing the sights he could see from his bed. Pretty girls, a policeman on horseback, a traffic jam, a pizza parlor, a fire station, and other scenes of life outside. Richard loved to listen to George, but the more George talked about life outside, the more Richard wanted to see it for himself. Yet, he knew that only when George died would he have his chance. He wanted to look out that window so badly that one day he decided to kill George. He's gonna die soon anyway, he told himself. What difference would it make? George had a bad heart. If he had any attack during the night and a nurse could not get to him right away, he had pills he could take. He kept them in a bottle on top of the cabinet between him and Richard's bed. All Richard had to do was knock the bottle to the floor where George could not reach it. A few nights later, George died, just as Richard had planned he would. And the next morning, Richard was moved to the bed by the window. Now he could see for himself all the things outside that George had described. After the nurses had left, Richard turned to see the window and looked out. But all he could see was a blank brick wall. Wait, I'm kind of confused because can he not see the window? Like, can he not see outside the window, like, from one bed over? I don't really understand. Okay, on to the last one. Let's read, like, 2 from here. Ew, oh my god. Okay, we're reading this one just because the picture's fucking hilarious. This one's called The Dream. Lucy Morgan was an artist. She had spent a week painting in a small country town and decided that the next day she would move on. She would go to a village called Kingston. But that night, Lucy Morgan had a strange dream. She dreamed that she was walking up a dark, carved staircase and entered a bedroom. It was an ordinary room, except for 2 things. The carpet was made up of large squares that looked like trapdoors, and each of the windows was fastened shut with big nails that stuck out of the wood. In her dream, Lucy Morgan went to sleep in that bedroom. During the night, a woman with a pale face and black eyes and long black hair came into the room. She leaned over the bed and whispered, "This is an evil place. Flee while you can." When the woman touched her arm to hurry along, Lucy Morgan awakened from her dream with a shriek. She lay awake the rest of the night trembling. In the morning, she told her landlady that she had decided not to go to Kingston after all. "I can't tell you why," she said, "but I just can't bring myself to go there." "Then why don't you go to Dorset?" the landlady said. "It's a pretty town, and it isn't too far." So Lucy Morgan went to Dorset. Someone told her she could find a room in a house at the top of the hill. It was a pleasant-looking house, and the landlady there, a plump, motherly woman, was as nice as could be. "Let's look at a room," she said. "I think you'll like it." They walked up a dark carved staircase, like the one in Lucy's dream. In these old houses, the staircases are all the same, Lucy thought. But when the landlady opened the door to the bedroom, it was the room in her dream, with the same carpet that looked like trapdoors, and the same windows fastened with big nails. "This is just a coincidence," Lucy told herself. "How do you like it?" the landlady asked. "I'm not sure," she said. "Well, take your time," the landlady said. "I'll bring up some tea while you think about it." Lucy sat on the bed, staring at the trapdoors and the big nails. Soon there was a knock on the door. "It's the landlady with the tea," she thought. But it wasn't the landlady. It was the woman with the pale face and black eyes and long black hair. Lucy grabbed her things and fled. Is this the bitch who came to you? I would run too. I would actually sprint away if this is the bitch who came to me and was like, "Get out of here." I'd be like, "You honestly? Okay, fine. Whatever you say, mama." Okay, let's read these 2 because they're both really short. This one's called The Red Spot. While Ruth slept, a spider crawled across her face. It stopped for several minutes on her left cheek, then went on its way. "What is that red spot on my cheek?" she asked her mother the next morning. "It looks like a spider bite," her mother said. "It'll go away, just don't scratch it." Soon the small red spot grew into a small red boil. "Look at it now," Ruth said. "It's getting bigger. It's sore." "That sometimes happens," her mother said. "It's coming to a head." In a few days the boil was even larger. "Look at it now," Ruth said. "It hurts and it's ugly." "We'll have the doctor look at it," her mother said. "Maybe it's infected." But the doctor could not see Ruth until the next day. That night Ruth took a hot bath. As she soaked herself, the boil burst. Out poured a swarm of tiny spiders from the eggs their mother had laid in her cheek. In the bitch's cheek! Honestly, that we could have guessed that from the picture, but it laid it inside of her cheek. Inside. This one's called No Thanks, which is how I feel when I see him. This is the last one. I promise. Thursday nights, Jim worked as a stock boy in one of the malls out on the highway. By 8:30, he was usually finished and he drove home. But that night, Jim was the last to leave. By the time he got out to the huge parking lot, it was almost empty. The only sounds were cars in the distance and his footsteps on the pavement. Suddenly, a man stepped out of the shadows. "Hey, mister," he called in a low voice. He held out his right hand. Balanced on the palm was the long, thin blade of a knife. Jim stopped. "Nice, sharp knife," the man said softly. "Don't panic," Jim thought. The man stepped towards him. "Don't run," Jim told himself. "Nice, sharp knife," the man repeated. "Give him what he wants," Jim thought. The man came closer, and he held up the knife. "It cuts nice and easy," he said slowly. Jim waited. The man peered into his face. "Hey man, only $3, 2 for $5. Nice present for your mama." "No thanks," Jim said. "She's got one." And he ran for his car. Okay, honestly, I guess I'm okay ending on that one because it's not traumatizing. I hope you guys enjoyed. I should stop throwing everything that I own. Oh my god, my eyes look kind of crazy right now. Let me know if you guys like these because I can read more of them. I really enjoy these stories. They remind me a lot of my childhood. Someone also asked where I got these. Someone sent them to me, but I'm pretty sure you can get them on Amazon because I think they just sent them to me from Amazon, like they ordered them. and sent them to my P.O. box. Again, I'm really sorry there's only 2 videos this week and only 2 videos next week. I know I keep apologizing and saying I'm gonna get better, and I don't because I suck ass. But I really am gonna try. Sorry that I was pissed off in my video from Friday, but I'm back, baby. I'm really hyper right now. It's actually fucking disgusting. I gotta go shower and then I have to start packing. So I'm gonna go, but I love you guys. I will see you in the next one. Bye. Also, I got Wendy's. Dude, they have the 4 for $4 thing. Oh my god, it's amazing. You get like a cheeseburger, chicken nuggets, french fries, and a soda for $4. And some change. Best deal in the whole world. Why am I like this? Why do I feel this way right now? Why could I not be this hyper earlier? Also, oh my god, I don't think I've ever told you guys this story, but y'all know Joey Salads. He makes really shitty prank videos. He came into my stream one time and paid me like $1,400 to break this monitor. I don't use this monitor. It's not even compatible with my computer, so I literally had it just sitting here collecting dust. I got paid $1,400 to break this like $50 shitty monitor that I can't even use. I'm an e-girl. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I'm like the thumbnail of that video too. It was pretty pathetic, honestly. I don't know why he gave me so much money to do it. He wanted me to bash my TV and then I talked him into letting me bash that. So, finesse. Okay, I'm gonna go see ya.